She was the Mata Hari of the Caribbean. She was at the center of assassination attempts, bungled spy missions, and controversial global intrigue. And she was in love with one of history's most notorious figures. Her name? Marita Lorenz. During her 25 years as a spy and informant, Lorenz lived a shocking life full of adventure that would put James Bond to shame. She came across dictators, gangsters, and killers, and she had affairs with many of her targets, including Cuban leader and Beard Club member Fidel Castro. Are all of these stories fully accurate? Can truth really be this much stranger than fiction? See if you can figure out yourself as we dive into the history of Marita Lorenz. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe to Weird History. And would it kill you to leave a comment? Lorenz was born in Nazi-occupied Germany to a German father who worked as a U-boat captain and an American mother who was recruited by France and Britain as a spy. When the oppressive German government found out about her parents' anti-Nazi sentiments, they threw the family into a concentration camp. In 1944, when Lorenz was 5, her family was placed in the Bergen-Belsen concentration camp. Lorenz's father was held as a prisoner of war, and Lorenz and her siblings were moved to the children's ward. Eventually, the Allies liberated the camp, and Lorenz's family relocated to America. In 1959, at the age of 19, Lorenz was working on one of her father's luxury boats on a trip to Havana, Cuba. Who met the boat at the harbor? None other than the new leader of Cuba, Fidel Castro. According to Lorenz, Castro announced he wanted to come aboard. When Lorenz asked who he was, he simply said, "Yo soy Cuba." Lorenz estimated there were 27 men with Castro, all sporting the same style of beard. Castro, then 33, was immediately smitten with Lorenz, and while Lorenz was intimidated by Castro's crew, all armed and dangerous, she fell for Castro quickly thereafter. Little did she know what actions this romance would set into motion. Later that year, Lorenz claims she became pregnant by Castro. In October, she was 7 months pregnant, ready to deliver her and Castro's first child. But circumstances changed. She was slipped a drug in a glass of milk, waking up hours later in a hospital bed. When she awoke, the commander of the Cuban army told her the baby had been taken away because of Fidel's enemies. Castro himself was nowhere to be found. She was then given an injection and taken back to a Havana hotel room. While some historians doubt Lorenz was ever impregnated by Castro, Lorenz believes this abortion attempt was unsuccessful, and she eventually wound up meeting the son she believed she had with Castro. The son she had but didn't remember having. The son she had but didn't have any physical evidence of having. That was the son she felt she met. More on that chance encounter later. The CIA eventually got to Lorenz, encouraging her to flip on Castro and terminate him. They flew her out to the USA, gave her poison pills to give him, briefed her on the details, then flew her back to Cuba. When Lorenz got back to Cuba, she realized she couldn't go through with it. Her love for Castro was too entrenched, and she discarded the poison pills by placing them in a jar of cold cream. Instead of killing Castro, Lorenz slept with Castro that night. What would have happened had Lorenz gone through with her mission? We'll never know for sure, but some historians and former spies believe that, among other consequences, the Bay of Pigs fiasco would have never occurred. Lorenz seemed to have recentered herself around killing Castro, and she found herself training with Operation 40, a CIA anti-Castro group located in Florida. Among other trainees at the camp was Lee Harvey Oswald, who you might have heard of as being the guy who would eventually assassinate President John F. Kennedy. According to Lorenz, Oswald had recruited members of the camp for a secret road trip to Dallas. Lorenz initially joined them, but when she found out Oswald's intentions, she abandoned them and flew home to Cuba. She said she heard about Kennedy's assassination on this very plane ride. Frank Sturgis, a spy who was allegedly also in Oswald's car, called Lorenz's claims into question, saying she changed her story's details too many times to count. "I'm not saying that everything that Marita says is a lie," he told Vanity Fair, "but she'll do anything for money." Lorenz was set up with another mission, this time targeting deposed Venezuelan dictator Marcos Pérez Jiménez. She was sent to Florida, where he had fled, to collect money from him in exchange for granting him U.S. residency. Instead, he collected her heart. Pérez Jiménez was already married with children, but that didn't stop him from falling in love with Lorenz. He pursued her, and she agreed to be his amante, or mistress. 1 month into their relationship, Lorenz became pregnant by him. He put her up in Miami during this time. Lorenz gave birth to their daughter, Monica, and she and Pérez Jiménez lived a relatively peaceful life for a few years. However, Pérez Jiménez was then extradited back to Venezuela to stand for his crimes. He was arrested, and neither Lorenz nor Monica saw a penny of his vast fortune. In 1963, after Perez Jimenez's arrest, Lorenz decided to travel to Venezuela to visit her former love and father of her daughter, Monica. Upon arrival, Lorenz was immediately arrested and put in a jail cell next to Perez Jimenez, but she didn't stay long. After she was released, 2 local intelligence agents offered her and Monica a sightseeing tour. They accepted, but quickly realized it was not what it seemed. The agents flew Lorenz and Monica into the middle of the Amazon rainforest and abandoned them. Lorenz claims she and Monica stayed in the rainforest for 9 months alongside a native tribe. And biographers and historians say that despite Lorenz's propensity for wild stories, this one is likely true and likely a plot of Lorenz's former lover, Perez Jimenez. Lorenz never said her relationship with Fidel Castro was non-consensual, but in May of 1963, her mother Alice published a piece called "Fidel Castro Raped My Teenage Daughter." This title was also pitched as a film on the Lifetime network. The piece, published in a pulp magazine, Police Gazette, was written by Alex Rourke, a CIA colleague of Alice. In the piece, they accused Castro of many inhuman crimes, including kidnapping, drugging, and rape. While many elements of Castro's relationship with Lorenz are questionable, Alex and Rourke did deliberately exaggerate and invent many parts of the piece. The goals were twofold: to turn Lorenz against Castro and to turn America at large against communism. Lorenz wound up leaving the CIA, moving to New York in the late 60s and working for the FBI as an informant. In 1969, she gave birth to a son named Mark, saying that the father was a former New York police chief. The truth was far more salacious. In fact, Mark's father was Eddie Levy, a small-time gangster who had served prison time in Florida. Lorenz never quite told Mark the truth. As she said to biographer John Stockwell, it was better to have a father who was a cop than one who went to jail. In 1981, Lorenz came to the realization that she needed to protect her children from all the dangerous men she had rendezvoused with before informing on them. She went to the Cuban embassy in New York, communicating via handwritten notes out of paranoia of surveillance. Eventually, the embassy granted Lorenz's request to return to Havana for a more formal request of protection. And that's when Lorenz claims to have met the child she had had with Castro, named Andre, whom she thought she had lost decades ago. "The first thing I noticed was his white skin and Fidel's curly hair," she said upon meeting him. "I said, 'It's nice, Fidel. You did a beautiful job.'" When Lorenz's sister Valerie picked her up at the airport to take her home, she claimed Lorenz was in a state of shock. To examine Lorenz's life, one must discern between fact and fiction, truth and a good story. In 1976, Tom Ginsburg, president of Viking Press, decided he was up for the challenge. He paid Lorenz and a ghostwriter a $320,000 advance for an official biography. However, the project was shelved for many years when Penguin bought Viking Press. Finally, her official autobiography, The Spy Who Loved Castro, was published in 2017. She'll eventually be played by Jennifer Lawrence in a film adaptation of her life. Marita Lorenz's life story is wild, full of probable exaggerations and unlikely truths. She'll forever be known as one of the world's most controversial figures in secret intelligence, and forever known as the woman who loved Fidel Castro. Hope you liked the story. Do us a favor, subscribe, comment, and tell your history friends all about us. And check out these other videos for more unusual stories from our weird history.